recording, and in fact, the recording is starting right now. Everything that happens in the session. Now, obviously, this has a positive side as well, because that means that you will be able to get this material afterwards and review it and share it with your colleagues and friends who are not able to attend. Someone's also asking if the actual slides will be shared. Yes, so the slides will also be shared in a PDF format as usual. Let's see, are there other practicals we need to discuss? There's not much to say, I think. It's been a really nice day here, and I think it's a good time, like, middle of the afternoon, to start doing something a bit more relaxed than all of the intensive work we've all been doing for the rest of the day. So without further ado, the introduction to the December 17th Belgium Tableau user group. You guys may know us by now. Some of you are joining for the, I don't know, second, third, fourth, fifth time, maybe even. Marianne and I are the hosts of the Belgium Tableau user group. We started, I think it was a year and a half ago, with physical events, and now, just like everyone else, we're doing these virtual events. And credit where credit is due, it's Marianne who does the bulk of the preparation, the bulk of the work, and just gets everything put together, make sure everything runs smoothly. And then I'm just, speaking a little bit here. She usually co-hosts, but today she's finishing up some very urgent work. Urgent because she's planning on having 2.5 weeks of blissful vacation after this. So she just wants to make sure that everything is done before that, so she can stop worrying about work. And she's right, isn't she? So she will join us a bit later once she's done with all that. But for now, I guess you're stuck with me, who will just be introducing, our usual user group and then our speakers. And for that reason, maybe I won't bore you with that too long. Just the usual for those who are new and for those participating in this kind of user groups for the first time. So you may very well be coming to us from Belgium or joining from anywhere else in the world, because that's now possible thanks to this virtual aspect. Again, if a user group is new to you, a Tableau user group's mission is to connect Tableau user mainly. Like, it's, bringing people together who do things with Tableau, who do similar things, or who like to learn about other people doing things like them differently, just be inspired or learn from a technical perspective. All of that is possible. It's, as the slide says, a space for users from all levels, sharing stuff and learning time and time again, because this typically occurs every 3 to 4 months. And ideally, as bullet point number 3 indicates, we like to try and have fun while we do so. And this is my opinion, but I think we've done a pretty good job at finding interesting content and spicing that up with a little fun activity here and there in the last few editions. So if you ask me, everything is going quite well, actually. And everything might be going even better today because we have a very interesting panel of speakers for you. Who are the following? I will not introduce them personally. I will just mention that they're here and what they're going to talk about very briefly, so that we can just dive into their content, which will be much more interesting than my formalities we're going through here. So yes, our program for the next 80 minutes, let's say, is that we have Frédéric and Ruth both joining us with a single presentation. They are colleagues working on a very, very interesting case of Tableau being used at Lijn, which most of you, I'm sure, know. Lijn, the transportation company managing and making sure all buses in Flanders get from point A to point B, ideally with some passengers on there. So they use Tableau. You may not have you may not have been aware of this. I wasn't, but I'm certainly eager to learn about what that looks like and how they use it. So Frédéric and Ruth will tell us about that. We have Gauthier joining us as well. Gauthier, who has more experience than me, that's for sure, in Tableau and its connection to Salesforce. And I think some of you might be realizing, right, Salesforce has purchased Tableau over a year ago. And I may still not be sure what this actually means to me and what the repercussions are. So maybe you've thought, well, it's been pretty quiet over the past few months, but you know, behind the scenes, there's a lot going on about integrating the products and bringing them together. And Gauthier will introduce to us what all that means and what the status is at this point in time. Oops, sorry, just me being clumsy with the slides here. And finally, we have Armani, who I'm proud to say is on the same team as I am at Biztory. And she has a very lighthearted subject for us today, which I think is ideal as a closing session about art in data visualization. And that's all I will say about that, because, well, we just have to be ready to be surprised and amazed by what she's going to bring us there. So all that being said, I think it is the right moment for me to finally hand over to our first two speakers, and then I guess formally Frédéric, who is going to take the lead first in their presentation on the business case. So Frédéric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Timothy. Let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, so yeah. Thank you, Timothy, for the introduction. Interesting to be part of the Tableau user group. We are really happy to be part of this one and to present you the case we worked on with Ruth at the Line and how they move from manual Excel reporting to self-service analytics in Tableau. So I will be presenting the session together with Ruth, my colleague from Business and Decision. So we are both experts in data visualization with years and years in the data industry and also several years with Tableau. So our mission is really to provide the right dashboards to our clients, and to really convert all their needs into great stories. So today we'll explain you the passengers activity at use case at the Line and why it is important for them. Then we will see how they used to report on that activity in the past. Then we will see the change that Tableau brought at the Line. And finally, Ruth will show you a nice demo of the tool. So just quickly, so you kind of understand who we are as Business and Decision. If you don't know, so we are experts in BI, business intelligence, CRM, e-business, and actually all data related topics. We are active worldwide, and we have thousands of talents and running projects. And the Line, as you certainly know, is the Flemish public transport company. They have thousands of employees, thousands of vehicles running per day, and they are active in 15 custom regions in Flanders. So the passengers activity business case at the Line, what it is exactly, it's about monitoring the performance of executed routes. So actually just the performance of the buses and trams that drive over the region. Who is interested of this use case in the company? Internally, the main users are the regional managers, the mobility developers, and the mobility researchers. So you can imagine all these different audiences have different needs, so they will have different dashboards and different level of details to answer their questions. How do we report on the passengers activity? It's simply counting the people onboarding in the bus and in the trams, and also the people offboarding through some algorithm. So we are able to compute the vehicle occupancy for the entire journey of the bus. And why is it important for the Line? It's just to improve and to really keep the high level of service for the passengers and make sure it matches with their demand. So for instance, if they see that a specific line or is very well used, they could, for instance, increase the vehicle capacity, put a longer bus in the line, or if the line is not used, or if they see that a stop is not used for a while, they could just cut some part of the traject so they can improve their budget assignment and make sure the budget is correctly assigned to the to where is the demand. Okay, so how they used to report on the passengers activity. So you have to know that the Line has a management agreement with the Flemish government. So they have to evaluate each region within a period of 5 years. Evaluating a region mean actually what is the performance of the different journeys, the performance of the different routes that are passing through the regions. And they used to evaluate the different regions and the different lines based on the on inputs from performance of the field. So it was typically the line workers that point some specific lines to check to be sure that this line is well designed, well used, and it was always for some specific line, of course, and specific limited periods, like 1 day in the week. And you will understand why, because in the past, how they used to report on the passengers' activity, they simply took the planning of the different lines and the different routes of the bus, and they were physically going in the bus to count the people getting in and getting off the bus on a paper. So you can imagine tons and tons, hundreds of sheets of papers when you have some numbers when people getting in and off. So you can also imagine that it was quite prone to error for the people encoding. So heavy manual process for them. And after that manual counting on paper, there was someone that was in charge of actually encoding that into Excels. So you encode the different stops, the different directions, the timestamps, and the people getting in off the bus. So you can imagine that it was a huge work of transcription. There was a lot of different aggregations in the data, different formulas to be able to draw some charts and to assess the different stops in the lines. So that was a heavy process for the business user, requiring a lot of attention and effort. So not really straightforward to do. So like I said, heavy manual process requiring specific workforce. So you always have to hire people actually to go in the bus and count the people getting in and off, which is a lot of budget in this case. And because of the specific assessment of one line or one journey, there was no overview on the activity. So there was no high-level view, actually, an high-level aggregation on all this data. So it was very specific for some requests. And as you can imagine, also going in the bus, counting the people, putting that into Excel, drawing some formulas and charts was really a pain, and it had a long time to value for the business users. So sometimes weeks or even months to get the results of the studies. So as from 2017, the Lijn has introduced the chip cards with the Mobib cards. So putting that in all the buses, you can imagine, if you remember the quick figures we've seen, thousands of passengers, thousands of vehicles running per day. It's actually a lot of data to integrate into data warehouse. But it was still too much for the business users to analyze themselves this data. Thousands of passengers every day on every line, every vehicle, was really difficult to find a good story out of that. So they started to make some first interactive reports. So you can see it was a first, it was already something pretty good for them, but there was a lack of interactivity, a lack of flexibility, and also not all the required level of detail with these first interactive reports. And we've seen in 2019 that more and more people were asking specific questions about this data. Okay, now we have the Mobib data in the data warehouse. So we would like to know what is happening with the line I have set up last month. What is happening with this stop where there are too many people trying to onboard the same vehicle So more and more question coming from the business. There was really a clear need to provide this analytical power to the business. So we have a partnership with the Lijn and of course Tableau, and we propose Tableau at the Lijn to really help the business answering all these questions. So we will now see how we implemented Tableau at the Lijn, because okay, the data was there, it was in the data warehouse, hundreds of millions of records to analyze. So we came with a plan. First plan was to study the requirements and really to make sure that we understand the user stories. So understanding the user stories is critical for every use case to be filling the needs of the business, of course. So the Lijn had a very good idea on all the user stories they wanted to develop. So that was a good first step for us in analyzing these requirements. Of course, we had to take into account the technology constraints of the company, like the fact they would like to go for SaaS, so software as a service, so in the cloud. Also assessing the data availability. Where is the data? Is it everything in the same data warehouse for all the different user stories? And just a few days after the requirement study, we started to assess Tableau and prototyping the user stories we had detected. And we did that with a close follow-up with the business. So the business users were always sitting next to us to make sure the user story was okay, to make sure that the charts we tested and all the tries we've made with Tableau were okay for them. And finally, the Lijn validated Tableau thanks to some parameters like the advanced geocoding. All the variety of visual representation was important for them. And so in May 2019, validation of Tableau. At the same time, no time to lose, we directly set up the platform. And it was really fast, actually, just a few minutes because it was on Tableau Online. So the Lijn decided to acquire the Tableau Online licenses. And since then, we have implemented plenty of different user stories and use case. So the passengers activity are actually one of the 5 different user stories we have in the Lijn. So we implemented all these user story still in collaboration with the business. So really taking the design thinking approach to implement this user story to make sure we implement the right dashboard. We have set up a lot of internal communication around the tool to make sure that the user adoption will be there and the people internally are aware of this tool. The people internal from the Lijn have created Teams community, videos, some documents to the final users for them to understand how to use the different dashboards. And we also add a lot of different demos and trainings to creators, explorers, viewers to make sure they use their user profile at the maximum of the capacity. Which finally led to a high user adoption rate and the acquisition of more licenses. And we are still, we just have closed the development phase now. We will enter in the maintenance phase, but they still have a lot of ideas to make the mobility tool evolve with new use case and also other use case for Tableau. In different departments. Okay, so quickly the added value for the Lijn. So you can imagine that this integrated reporting approach for all the region and use case really changed something there in the company, because now they can have access to the global overview of the activity, but also to the critical details. They found the tool really interactive and user-friendly to use. So we see that the people actually love to use Tableau at the Lijn. The onboarding a new user in the solution is really easy thanks to the great documentation and all the great support videos and documents that we have there for the users. Speed to insight, of course, you just have to connect to Tableau and you have the results you are waiting for. Ruth will show you that. And like I said, Tableau proposed a high variety of visual representation, which was really nice for the Lijn and all their geographical use cases. And of course, it's also provide an objective evaluation of the different lines, the different stops, routes that the Lijn is executing, as well for the internal usage, but also the external usage, because like you've seen, the Lijn has to report on this activity to the Flemish government, to the municipalities. So they use also the mobility tool and the different use cases to communicate around their activity to the officials. Okay, that's it for my part of the presentation. Now I will give the word to Ruth, which will show you the passengers activity use case.
Yes. Thank you very much, Frédéric. Okay, I think you can all now. Yes, now you can all see the homepage of our mobility tool. As you will notice, all the dashboards have a similar structure. So in the header, you'll find the logo of the Lijn, the titles, and some buttons to navigate back and forward into the tool. You will also see some filtering options above. In here, we have selected the date range of the last month, and from time to time, also messages on the latest updates. In the body of the dashboard, you can find the 4 main topics which the mobility tool contains. And accompanied by the title of the topic, you'll also find some high-level KPIs on these ones. The bus stop, when you hover over it, you can see that this is the link to actually go to the related dashboard. Today, we won't be discussing all of the dashboards since it will overload you maybe with a bit too much information, but we'll focus on the passengers activity. And we also have an interesting use case to analyze together with you in this topic. So I click on the bus stop for the passenger activity, and I will be directed to the regional overview. For all our main topics, the first dashboard on which we land will give a high level and full overview of the Flemish region. You can see that the dashboard is split in 2. The first part is a geographical analysis of the 15 custom regions of the Lijn. And next to it, you can find a ranking of these regions with a highlighting action showing the different regions on the map. When you hover over the region, you can also see that the total number of validations, that is indicating the color and the text on the map, is split up in a tooltip into the first onboardings and the interchanges. The below part of the dashboard shows the number of passengers on a timeline and also on a weekday basis, or you can also see the type of day. When we check the timeline, we can see a weekly trend appearing. So almost all the weekdays have more or less the same number of validations. And then there's a slight drop on Saturday and an even bigger drop on Sundays. The first couple of days of November were school holidays and public holidays, and therefore the numbers are a little bit lower than the normal weekdays. As you also all know, the last couple of months have not been a normal period, and we can see this as well in our timeline. So now I'm selecting the last 12 months, and then when we take a look at our timeline, we will see the impact of Corona. Of course, it's a live demo, so the dashboard can be stuck. I will just reload. Normally it should go quick. All right. Or I will just navigate back to the regional overview, and that might speed up the loading of our dashboard. All right. Yeah, so normally this dashboard goes really fast since it's all quite high level numbers, and almost every time we filter something in the dashboard, it's also reacting fast, but this has to be some other issue. I'll try to refresh one more time, or I'll navigate one more time back here. Okay, so my homepage is there. I'll still quickly show you the impact of Corona once it's now. Normally it will be loading faster. Okay, so here we have our timeline, and we can clearly see the drop of Corona numbers in the last couple of normal months, and then somewhere in mid-January, the numbers are going down. But it's 1 year on a timeline, so therefore it's quite useful to use the drill up in the date hierarchy so we can see the trends on a weekly or a monthly basis. And in here, we also see that the first couple of months had a normal amount of validations, then a drop in March and an even bigger drop in April, slowly getting back to normal. And in September, we're more or less at 60% of the normal capacity or normal number of validations. And then confinement measures got a little bit stricter, and the numbers are going down some more. So on our map, we see that Antwerp is the brightest region, and there's the most number of total validations. But we can also switch the indicator of our dashboard. Instead of looking at the total number of validations, we can look at the average number of validations per trip. And now we see a different trend. So now the region of Ghent is on top. So even though maybe in Antwerp more people are traveling with the buses, on average you'll find more people in Ghent on a specific bus or tram than in Antwerp. But let's go back to our use case. Our use case is about Lijn that we want to investigate, and the line is the line 1051. It's located in the region of Antwerp, and I'm selecting the last month to have a look at these numbers. So since my line is in Antwerp, I click on the custom region of Antwerp, and then I see some different dashboards where I can navigate to with these links. I will use the second link because this link will lead me to the dashboard about the different lines used in Antwerp. The other dashboards are about the origin and the destination, and the municipality details on the stops in the city of in the region of Antwerp. So I'm going to the overview for all the lines in the custom region of Antwerp, and I immediately see some KPIs above. So the number of lines used, number of trips during this period, total number of validations, and average validations per trip. The first visual that I see is the top 10. So it's based on the most validations that we define the top 10. And next to it, we see which type of subscriptions are used for these lines. So we see the different types of abonnements with also the age category next to it. The below part is similar to the overview, although now our timeline is split up also by type of subscription. And in here, we can see the usage during the day. So the number of passengers on the specific hours, also colored by type of subscription. The line that I want to investigate as a mobility tool developer, let's say, is 1051. But I don't see this line appearing in the top 10. So either I can elaborate the top 10 or I can look for the line in the specific line filter. If I apply this filter, I will see that the full dashboard is filtered on the 1051. So I can already see what type of subscriptions that this line is using. And I can also look at what is happening with the line during the hours of the day. I see two peaks or two unusual peaks, one at 7 and also one at 3 to 4 o'clock, which is the times that the schools are opening and closing. And when I look at the subscription, this is also similar because it's a lot of young people that are using it in comparison with the rest of the hours of the day. But I want to take a look at the more stop details of this line, and therefore I click on the line again, and it will direct me to the lowest level of detail dashboard for the line. So it's a dashboard purely for the selected line. In my case now, I'm looking at the data for the line 1051, and I can see to which type or to which directions that the line is driving and which type of paths that it's using to get to this direction. On the map, I can find all the stops that this line is using, and the color and the size will indicate what the occupancy at this specific stop is. I can already detect that the first part of the traject is well used because the stops are really yellow and the dots are also bigger. But then after exiting Buchau, the stops get smaller and they're quite wide. So this part of the traject is less used. But if I click on a specific destination, I will load the details of the dashboard and I will also load the line profile. You've maybe seen it briefly in one of the Excel files that Frédéric showed. But so now we made a dynamic line profile which shows all the details that are happening at a specific stop. So the yellow bars indicate the number of people that are getting on at these specific stops, and the blue bars, the people getting off. And the black line indicates the occupancy at this stop. Of course, there are not 720 people on the bus, but it's the occupancy during the full period of November. And when we go down, then we also see a heat map. So it's the split up of the occupancy for all the hours of the day. So the brighter the square is, the more people are on the bus for that specific hour, for that specific stop. And in here, I can also see the same trends appearing. So the line is well used in the beginning, both for the people getting on as the people getting off. But then I can see that my heat map is quite fading out at the end. And also when I look at the bars, there's not a lot of activity at these stops. So as a mobility developer, I can, these insights can help me with, for example, making the traject a bit shorter, or maybe reducing the frequency of the line, letting less trips drive this specific line, or maybe focusing on specific peak hours for the line to drive. But for this, I, of course, need to consult the operational planning, but the mobility tool already gives me a lot of insights, both on a high level as a very detailed level. So this is one of the many use cases that can be solved with using the mobility tool. And I hope it already gave you a good insight of the usage and the design of the mobility tool.
Excellent. Yes. I assume that this is the end of the first use case. I think it is. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ruth and Frédéric. Fascinating indeed. I really like when we see analytics on topics that are close to what we know and do in day-to-day life, like exactly this. Taking a bus is something that many people do, and then seeing everything that's going on behind organizing that is indeed quite interesting, at least, well, in my opinion, but I think you may share that opinion now. Also, I thought that this was introduced as a full-blown analytical tool, because that's what's also in the name. And I must say, I'm not disappointed, because the capabilities of everything that's been built there, I thought were really quite impressive, going from a very high level where we see those general trends with the impact of 2020, and then going down to that very operational level of the stations overview and everything. Really, really cool. This is everything I would have dreamt of if I was an analyst at the Lijn. So really good to see. Okay, our next speaker, Gauthier, for our information, I guess, on what's happening with Salesforce and how Tableau is becoming the tool of choice for CRM analytics. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with a very 2020 like question. Can everyone see my screen? I feel like we've said that 1,000 times this year.
That's true, but we can see it fine. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Foremost, thanks a lot for the session on the Lijn. I thought it was a very interesting use case. To be honest, it's also my preferred mobility option. I think the Lijn is way better than Stib and Le Tech, and now with those tools, I think it will be even better. And actually, it's a very good introduction to my presentation, because the analytics tools that the Lijn has now are great to have an insight on what's happening today. But the things that we are trying to do with Salesforce Einstein is also to predict the future and to discover the hidden trends in the data. So let me just give a quick intro word about myself. I'm Gauthier. I'm almost 25 years old. You find the links onto my socials right there. I've been working at Deloitte for 2 years, and I've had quite some fun working on Einstein projects, Einstein and Tableau, in several industries, in several countries as well. So I'm very I started to build this expertise 2 years ago, and now we are building a strong team at Deloitte. So I'm really happy to continue the conversation with you after this session if you're interested. But so let's talk about Salesforce first. A quick intro. You know that Salesforce, like they say that they are the #1 CRM in the market, and it's true that they have a very they have a great platform to give you this customer 360 view. And yeah, they are claiming that they allow you to connect to your customers by uniting sales, service, marketing, commerce, IT, and analytics. And I think they are indeed doing a good job at providing this holistic approach to your customer. And so what does Einstein have to do with this? Well, Einstein is basically the AI layer that they are putting on top of all of their products. So it's an integrated set of AI technologies that makes Salesforce smarter and basically brings AI to everybody's hands. Now, it's built on top of Salesforce on Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. That's the two, let's say the two topics that will interest us today are Einstein Analytics and Einstein Discovery. The first one is a data visualization tool. So more on that later. But the second one it's called Einstein Discovery, and it's like having a data scientist as part of your team that can work day in, day out, and that basically crunches your data to discover those hidden trends. So you will see those predictions coming up in more and more places of the CRM, and also as part of Tableau, because you know that Salesforce acquired Tableau more than a year ago. So the product teams have been working closer and closer together, and now we start to see the results of their work. So those things are still in beta. So I wasn't able to construct a quick demo and guide you through it, but I still have some screenshots to share with you on those three topics where we are bringing AI predictions to Tableau. So the first one, Einstein dashboard extension, is basically an add-on to your Tableau visualization. So right now, imagine you are looking at info about the Lijn. If you're trying to predict something like customer, you want to prevent customer from not paying, for example, or you want to, here we are looking at an example where we are trying to maximize the engagement rate. You have the bars and details displayed, but what you have on the side is this the output from the Einstein discovery model. And this output comes in the form of top predictors and improvement suggestions. The top predictors are basically the attributes that the model recognized have the most predictive power. So those attributes, those fields, are the ones that you should really pay attention to if you want to optimize this. So here we are trying to maximize engagement rate, but it can be minimizing cost, it can be minimizing churn, it can be maximizing passengers' happiness, it can be anything. The top predictors are the fields that you should really pay attention to, and the how to improve section are basically the things that the model spotted as the fields that had the most predictive power. The second feature of Einstein discovery in Tableau is Einstein Calc. Now with this feature, we are basically bringing predictive capabilities with something that looks like the simple creation of a computed field, right? In your prep, in Tableau prep, you can create a computed field, but still it will be a deterministic thing, right? It will just be a computation based on other fields. With Einstein discovery, you can basically just create a predictive field and then drag and drop it in your data sets to have those recommended improvements and to basically get a glimpse into the future. Now, those recommendations and those predictions are now powered by Einstein discovery, but it also means that it's real time. And as long, the more you enrich your data sets, the more accurate your predictions will be as well. And the third thing I wanted to talk about is the bulk scoring and predictive insights in Prep Builder. There again, we are using Einstein discovery to add a predictive node to the prep flow. And again, we will have the predictive factors and the recommended improvements as part of the prep flow to construct the data sets and to have this visualization then afterwards. Okay, so now we've seen how Einstein discovery is becoming part of Tableau. How does Tableau find its way into Einstein? And basically, I talked in the beginning about Einstein analytics and Einstein discovery. I said that Einstein discovery is, I said that Einstein analytics was a data visualization tool. And then you might be thinking, okay, but Tableau is also a data visualization tool. So how are those two tools going to live next to each other? And the answer is they are just going to be perfect for different use cases. Now, as part of the rebranding, Salesforce has made it very clear that Tableau and the Tableau brand is here to stay. And you see here in the picture that Einstein Analytics is now called Tableau CRM. So it's a very it's good news for us Tableau enthusiasts to see that the name is not going to disappear. But basically, how does that fit in the bigger picture? Well, Tableau CRM is just going to be a part of the Tableau suite that is still built on Salesforce and that is optimized for the CRM. So it's a set of advanced AI capabilities that's built for all the Salesforce objects. It's optimized for the CRM and it's native in Salesforce. So it's still built on the Salesforce platform, but it's just going to be a part of the Tableau tools that you can pick from, basically. And so that's a bit what I wanted to cover today. Now, there are a lot of, I'm just scratching the surface here. There are a lot of links that I want to guide you through. Trailhead is basically the go-to platform to learn more about Salesforce. It's pretty similar to the e-learning platform that you all know and love from Tableau, except that Trailhead is free. And to be honest, it's in my opinion, it's a little bit better because it's extremely fun to learn on that platform. They've really taken all the gamification aspects and included them in that platform. It's definitely where I advise you go to create an account, start browsing around in the Salesforce world, Salesforce ecosystem, because that's where you will understand more about Einstein Discovery. What can it do? What can't it do? And how will it find its way into Tableau? So those are some links to read about Tableau and Einstein Analytics, understand why they are better together. And here are some links to also go further, but more 2020 style webinars. So you know Tableau Conference-ish 2020. There was a very interesting session on Tableau and Einstein Analytics coming together. There was a very similar session given yesterday, actually, in Dreamforce to You 2020. So Dreamforce is, let's say, the Salesforce equivalent to Tableau Conference. It's one of the biggest tech conferences in the world. Of course, this year it's virtual, and I've linked those two sessions for you to understand more, to understand how those two products are going to live together, and also 3 YouTube videos from the respective YouTube channels. That's a bit what I had in mind. You will again find the links to my socials right here. I'm happy to stay in touch with you and again open the floor to some questions right now if you have some.
Yes, I did not mention at the start of the webinar, but I'm sure most of you are used to this by now. There are possibilities for questions. You can ask these through the chat if you're interested, and we'll pick these up and answer them. So let's take a minute for that.
I'm not seeing the chat, Timothy, so if you have, if you're seeing it.
I'm keeping an eye on it. Okay, here's a first question we do have coming in from Johan, asking, do you have some examples in terms of integrations between Salesforce and Tableau?
They are still working on that, but you can already count on super easy connectors to basically use Tableau as the data visualization and Salesforce as the, let's say, the data source. Right, because Salesforce will be your platform for lead management or for case management. And if you don't want to use the standard reports and dashboards in Salesforce, which I also don't like to do, if you prefer to use Tableau, then you can really count on those integrations. And that's only for data, right? Now I've also focused on those add-ons or those extra experiences that you can count on in Tableau, in the visualizations or in the prep builder.
Yeah, absolutely. You're mentioning that they're still working on them, and I think they're indeed renewing some of those. And the whole Tableau CRM movement is going to be like a relaunch of everything. I don't have much experience with this myself, but I've seen that it's like it's a two-way street, right? So getting your Salesforce data into Tableau in the first place is really easy because of those connectors that you're mentioning. And I even think that there are these starter dashboards that you can use when you connect to Salesforce so that you don't even have to do much, but then you get those Tableau dashboards, just plug it into your Salesforce environment and you're ready to go. So that's one way. And then in the other, I think I've also heard about, that's also what you were describing, I guess, but replacing the analytics in Salesforce with actual Tableau dashboards or even widgets, if you will. So this is a quite well-established thing, I believe.
You can bring Tableau dashboards in your Salesforce console, let's say, for the end users to see. So yeah, they're working on a lot of things, and it's crystallizing right now.
Yeah. Right. So Johan follows up on the question and says he's also interested in the embedded integration. So I would interpret that as using your Tableau analytics in Salesforce, embedding Tableau in Salesforce. And he's done that in the past, and he's curious to see if there's any improvements planned specifically for that.
I'm not aware of any improvements. I just think that there is basically a Tableau widget, as Timothy said, that you can place anywhere in your Salesforce org. You can put it on the home screen. You can put it on if you're working, for example, on a lead or an opportunity, and you want to have some insights on the account. You have a really nice viz for that. You just put that viz on the account or on the lead page. So I don't have any particular thing in mind around improvements. I just know that this widget is up and running.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen this being referred to as the Lightning Web Component or the Viz Lightning Web Component. So it's normally quite easy to set up and quite easy to use to connect to your data as well, so that your dashboards can be shown within the context of a page, meaning that if you have a certain sales rep using Salesforce and they're logged on, they would see that dashboard, like I think you've also illustrated. So it's normally pretty easy to set up. Yeah. And Ruben very helpfully has actually shared the link to that specific Lightning component in our chat. So those of you who are interested may certainly take a look there. So thanks for sharing that.
Thanks.
Yeah, so no other questions for now, but that was already quite enlightening. I'm sure for those of us who just don't happen to be in touch with these components so much. I guess that, you know, if this is an area you're active in, and if you work in things related to CRM or, you know, any of those platforms that indeed are part of the largest online, well, CRM and related tools that Salesforce is, then the Trailblazer learning experience is really quite a good one. I have a few colleagues who went through it, and then they say the same thing as you, Gauthier. They say that, quite frankly, it's really, really well put together, and one of the better online learning platforms that they've used. So what's the word I'm looking for? The
Trailhead.
Yeah, indeed. So Trailhead, that's it. But also the there's a specific English word I can't find right now. Sorry, what's that?
Gamification?
Yeah, gamification also helps. I'll just phrase it differently. If you want to get started, it's really easy. There's no high, you know, it's nothing difficult you have to go through. It's really accessible and quite open and interactive. Gamification around it is really nice. So, yeah, just that to conclude. I see that someone's asking for the same link again, so I will see if I can paste that here, but it should have been shared with all panelists and attendees, so I'll just share it here too. Just in case, otherwise, I think you can reach us through some of the contact information on the Tableau user group page, and then we can put you in touch. Also, Gauthier has shared his information, so feel free to go directly if you wanna check that with him.
Yeah. And yeah, with this, I would like to thank Marianne and Timothy for the organization of the event. And Armani, the floor is yours.
How nice of you to put a slide in for the next speaker. That's really, really, really nice.
Thank you, Gauthier. And thank you,
You're welcome.
Timothy. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Armani. I'm based in the Netherlands. I moved here from the UK at the beginning of this year to pursue my career in Tableau, and it has been an amazing journey so far. I am an analytics consultant at Biztory, which is an amazing, exciting and dynamic place to work. And of course, we have an amazing team of people, with Timothy being one of them, I'm proud to say. I'm also a certified Tableau trainer, as I love to teach people how to use Tableau, since it's such a fascinating tool. So let's get on with this. Okay, so because I like to use both my creative and analytical skills, I think Tableau, really provides me with this balance. But today we're going to be focusing more on the creative side, more specifically how we can create data art in Tableau. So most of you are used to creating charts in Tableau to analyze and interpret data. But the aim here is to use Tableau as a canvas, just as you would when you're creating a painting. So I just like to show you some of the work that I have created in Tableau. So as you can see, the combination of colors and shapes and mark types really make this pop. And I have named these based on what they remind me of. And there we go. And here the mark type is just large stars, and I've set the size to the maximum. And then you can see that the color palette really helps with the diverging effect. And then this next piece, I haven't really thought of a name for this, and it's quite different from the rest as there's not really much color in it. So if anyone does have any name suggestions, do let me know. And if you look closely, you'll be able to see that this is just a combination of large circles overlapping each other at different angles. And then the final two pieces that I've done most recently is called Firework. And then we also have something called Ethereal Seaweed. And the reason why I called it this is because it reminds me of a sort of mystical piece of seaweed floating in a really dark ocean. So I really, really like this one. So I'd just like to point out that, you know, the aim of this is not to follow strict procedural rules. When I'm creating these, I don't know what I will end up with. It's just really using the features of Tableau and experimenting and being spontaneous. Now, to start with, we need, well, I like to call it a base. And what I mean by that is you need to have some data. So in most cases, I use the sample superstore. And I mean, these have stemmed from me trying to recreate, for example, a radial bar chart that I've seen online. And then I just take it further. So one of my biggest inspirations in Tableau, in the Tableau community, is Toan Huang. And he has a website called Tableau Magic. Oops. And here you can find some amazing guides on how to create some very unique charts. And when I first started using Tableau, I always used to use Toan's guide, so credit to Tableau for this. So if we look at the last 4 pieces, I actually started these by trying to recreate the radial bar chart, sorry, the radial column chart. So here is what Toan created, which is really amazing. And as you can see, he gives step-by-step instructions about which data to connect to and which parameters to create and so on. So it's really, really useful. And you can learn a lot from it as well. And again, we have some pretty complex calculations here. And the more complex calculations you have as your base, the more you can do with the data and the more unique ways that you can disperse it. So I followed these instructions and I got to this step. And at this stage, I decided, okay, well, maybe I can do something from here. So what I'm going to show you is how I created the firework piece. And I thought this is a nice theme for the New Year's. And then if we get time, we can have a look at the seaweed piece as well. So here is the original. So as I showed you on Toan's website, I got to this stage by following his instructions.
Armani, sorry, but we only see your PowerPoint actually. We don't see your other application, I think.
Ah, I see.
Yes, better. Thanks.
Okay. Well, for those of you that missed it, here is Toan's website. Did you see the presentation here?
Yes, that was one. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with this. Now, usually when I create these, I just sort of, it's so relaxing that I don't really write down the steps, but this time I made sure to write down the steps. So I'm just gonna follow those. So the order of these does matter. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to my Y field and edit the table calculation. And you'll see that doing this really switches the points around. So in my Y, I want to select the order month only. And you'll see the change. And then I'm going to deselect the path and move the order month to the middle. And then I am going to add subcategory to color. And I'm just going to go into color and set this all to the Inferno color palette. And I'm going to change this at the end, and I'll show you how and why I do that. And then I'm going to change the mark type to circle. And if you want to follow this at a later stage, you know, it's not about following exactly what I do, because you'll find that every other little thing that you do will result in something completely different. So I'm just going to decrease the size here so I can see. Now I'm going to go into my X measure and I'm going to edit the table calculation. And I'm going to select path, yes, and then I'm going to select subcategory. And you'll see how the points have dispersed as I did that. And I'm going to move this to the second. So I want path first, subcategory, and I want to unselect these two. And then I'm going to go back into my Y. And I'm going to select subcategory in all of them. So you can see what's going on here, some pretty interesting things. There we go. And do the same in my distance. So this is what I have now, and the points have really been dispersed out, which is what I want. And again, when I was first doing this, I didn't know that I would get this. So it's really nice to see some random results turn into something beautiful. Now for my Y, I'm just going to drag subcategory on top. And what this is going to do is just change the orientation a little bit. Like this. And there you can see now I have some nice stretched out points. And that's the editing the table calculations part done. So the next stage that I want to explain. So if you zoom into here, you'll be able to see that in the background, there's some sort of sparky lines. And when a firework is sort of dying out, you sort of get those little fading marks. So I wanted to create that effect. And the way that I did that was by creating a dual axis. So I'm just going to control click and duplicate Y. And for the background layer, I don't want there to be any color. So I'm going to add subcategory to detail instead, because I still want those marks there. Oops, I did it on the all. So we add subcategory to detail. And I'm going to add the TC size measure to size. And just decrease this size a little bit. And because we are using quite a lot of table calculations, you'll find that sometimes it gets pretty slow. But in the end, you know, when you have the image, then it's fine. So I'm going to go into my subcategory and I'm just going to decrease the opacity of this. And now I'm going to do a dual axis so we can see what's going on. And I'm just going to format this a little bit. So remove the headers. And I'm going to set this to a dark color and get rid of the grid lines, the dividers. Okay, so if we look closely in the background, I'm just going to show my view toolbar. You'll be able to see those points of the dual axes in the back. So what I want to do is make my outer points a star. I think that's pretty nice. So I'm going to change the mark type to a shape. And I'm going to select star. So now when I hover over it, you'll be able to see all the little stars. And they're all the same size at the moment. So I'm going to add subcategory to size. So then I get different star sizes. Now I can increase the size. So we have a sort of like a double effect, and you can change it to whatever you like. And now the coloring, which I usually spend quite a lot of time on. So if I click on color, you can see that I'm using the Inferno palette. And there's some options here that are very dark. Now, if I select tables and machines, for example, and put them to a light color and hit apply, you'll be able to see these colors immediately pop out in the background. So that's how I sort of focus on the coloring, and I use the tooltip to help me as well, because I put subcategory on color. I can see which lines belong to which member in the dimension, and then I can use the color palette to change those. And if we want, we can use the CB spectral, and we can just change supplies, storage, and phones. And if I hit apply, you'll be able to see them colors pop out. And I think I'm just going to change the opacity a little bit. And there we go. So that's how to create the firework piece. And normally at the end, I always just turn the tooltips off. And a pretty cool feature that you can do with this is add animations. So I've got the original piece here. And if I add my order date to pages, which takes a little while. Okay, so I'm just going to change this to the date value so I can skip through more values. Okay, so let's turn this to the highest speed and then press play, and then we have a little sparkler effect. So that's the firework, and I hope you enjoyed that. I don't think we have time to show the second piece.
What do you think, Marianne?
I think we can show it. Sorry, I kind of snuck in at the back end there. I apologize. I got pulled into some work things, but you know, I think we can show it. Anyone that wants to hang out and stay, great.
Yeah, this one is just like, I would say a few minutes, because I'm not starting, everything is where it is. I'm just editing the table calculations for one measure and then doing the dual axes method.
This is my thing. I love looking at this. So it's like,
Okay.
wow. But
Let's do it.
I think
Yeah.
everyone is welcome to stay. We'll definitely, you know, send out the materials after. So don't worry about missing anything. We'll get as the same as always, right, Timothy? The recording and the deck and everything. We'll post that out. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Plus, you don't want to get back to work now, so just hang around.
I still have to, but
okay.
I decided I could take a break. So
All right. Yeah, let's have a look.
yeah.
Okay, so here I'm still using the same steps. I started with the circle by following Toan's instructions, and then I added the TC filter to the filters card. And you can see I also added TC filter to detail and TC color to detail, and I set this to compute using the subcategory. So I place TC filter on the filters card, and I'm going to select false and click OK. Now I'm going to go into this and edit the table calculation for every single measure. And you won't see a change happening at this stage, but you'll see it at the very end. So for TC filter, and you might have to bear with me for a few seconds, since it's going to show the processing requesting quite often. So I'm going to tick path. Distance. Ornaments. And I'm going to move path right to the top. Okay, going to index. And here we're only going to select, so we select specific dimensions. And we're going to select just distance. And everything below has to be in this order. And you'll find that just changing them as well can change the view. So again, I'm in my TC sales. I select specific dimensions. This time I'm going to tick path. And distance. And I'm going to drag path right to the top. One more left. So path, distance, untick ornaments, and subcategory, yes, final one. It'll be worth it, I promise. So I select specific dimensions. I'm going to say path. Distance. And ornaments. And I'm going to move path right to the top. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go into my filter. Edit filter. And now you'll be able to see both the true and the false. I'm going to untick false and hit apply. And there we go. We have a beautiful combination of curves. Now, if you look in the PowerPoint, you'll be able to see there's a sort of like double layer effect going on here. And the way I did that was, again, using a dual axis. So I'm going to duplicate my Y. So I get a replicate of the chart, not the chart, but the view, the visual. And for the Y2, I'm going to increase the size and make it really thick. And you can see then I see that really beautiful overlay. And now I'm going to set this to have a dual axis. And I'm going to hide the axes. And it's a little bit thin, so I'm going to go back into my Y and increase the size here so I can see that beautiful overlay. And that is the final piece. So now it's really nice to set as a background and so on. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And it's great, you know, to use Tableau as a canvas. There's so many things you can do. And yeah, I really hope to see more people trying this out because it's pretty exciting and it's really, I find it really relaxing.
Yeah.
And with that, yeah, I would like to also thank Marianne and Timothy for giving me the opportunity to talk about this.
Of course.
I'm still looking at the seaweed. It's so pretty.
I am in awe at what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just fun, right? That you're doing it with something that, you know, probably the most boring data set ever, no offense, but it's just fun to use it for something else. And like you said, I'm pretty sure that it's very relaxing. So I'm definitely going to give this a go and see where I end up. So thank you for kind of sharing some of your tips and tricks with us. That was really great.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, as the etiquette tells us, we have a few more formalities to go through, but that's really not so much. It is getting pretty late, so we won't keep you much longer. But as usual, we want to make sure that you are aware that we can keep in touch after this session, that if you're new and if you enjoyed today's session, you may consider signing up to receive communications that, again, most likely Marianne will send out, because as I was saying, she takes care of everything and I'm just here talking a little bit. But so you can follow the user group and you can connect with the broader Belgian community, which, you know, ideally are the same thing, but that's just two different places. The first link, again, which will be accessible through the slides that we sent to all attendees, is where you'll see the events. The second one is where you can actually interact. We're obviously also on Twitter. So follow us there to get the latest, really, and the updates hot off the press, you would say. A final little surprise that Marianne has included. We see these popping up more and more every year, don't we? Holiday themed Viz stuff on Tableau Public, and these are also two links you included. So effectively, again, from within the slides, you'll be able to click. But Marianne, if you want to say a word about what these are, maybe that would be
nice. I just love how people get creative with things, right? So these they just caught my eye the last couple of weeks, I think, or days. I saw them on, I think it was on Twitter, I don't remember. The first one is just basically kind of like the, you know, that game that you used to have. I don't even know what it was called, where you kind of click and it's with them digging for mine. I don't know what the word is.
Minesweeper. Yeah, we discussed it before.
Yes, terrible. So that's pretty what the Santa Claus one is. And then the second one is just a fun trivia quiz. And it's, you know, just a little present, hopefully to keep you entertained in the holidays and just to kind of give you an idea. And there's a lot of fun things that you can do. It's not all business dashboard. So I'll be posting this together with the other content. As soon as we have everything, it'll go out to everyone. And this deck will be in there as well. So like Timothy said, you can just click on the images and that'll take you to the pages on Tableau.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This is very creative indeed. I've never gotten as far as to develop something like this myself, but maybe one day, maybe I can learn from these.
And that was it.
Then That is indeed it. You have found this very warm image to get us to think and dream about the holidays coming up in well, just a little more than a week, not much more than that. So
next week.
Yeah.
At least get some of this, the Christmas, the holiday spirit out there.
Oh, it's here. It's here. We have 2 Christmas trees this year. So yeah, we're on full speed holiday spirit.
Excellent. So I think that was it. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us in this last session of the year. And keep watching your inbox or the community page on tableau.com, and we'll keep you posted on the events that we kind of planning to do for next year.
Absolutely. And we will also see you next time.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 And I'll be the last one. Bye, everyone. And now I'm ending the meeting.